Everyone seems to be expecting big breakout seasons for New Orleans Saints defenders CJ Gardner-Johnson and Pete Werner. But is Juwan Johnson, New Orleans Saints tight end, really the name to watch for a big breakout year in 2022? We got all of that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into this Tuesday episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that we're free and available on all podcast apps and on YouTube as well. I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter. You can find me over at USA Today's Saints Wire Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. Appreciate you as always for being here for another episode. Today we're talking not Locked On Saints. Well, yes, we are talking Locked On Saints. We're talking New Orleans Saints breakout candidates for 2022. We'll get to the defenders like Pete Werner and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who are expected to have big follow-up seasons to impressive 2021 appearances. But I want to start off today's episode with the guy that I know that you're excited about, and that is tight end Juwan Johnson. The New Orleans Saints tight end room could use a lot of help in the passing game, and it could just be that Juwan Johnson is absolutely the right person to add to that room. A Juwan Johnson that you should expect to see a little bit more bulked up this offseason, and particularly through training camp. He's going to draw a lot of eyes and draw a lot of attention. New Orleans Saints tight ends last year did not have a receiver or a tight end with over 300 receiving yards. Juwan Johnson was their second leading receiver at just under 200 himself. So when it comes down to who could potentially step up and make a big impact at tight end, certainly you're hoping for Adam Trautman to be that guy, and Adam Trautman could absolutely be on this list as breakout candidate, certainly somebody you'd like to see a breakout year from. But personally, I think Juwan Johnson deserves more targets. And this is coming from the guy who said that it would take a while for Juwan Johnson to really get into the rhythm of playing tight end. But it felt like he really got there last year. 13 catches on 22 targets. He just simply deserves more opportunities, and he should get those opportunities. You look back at Jameis Winston's career, and one of the things that he really leaned on were tight ends in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers system. Even when he had guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, tight ends were still highly targeted in Tampa's offense with Jameis at the helm. And so a guy like Adam Trautman, could potentially have that breakout year in 2022, but that doesn't mean that Juwan Johnson can't as well. We broke down in yesterday's episode Taysom Hill's impact on the tight end room as somebody that could potentially come in and help for the sort of receiving portion of the game, the pass catching portion of the game. But it's not limited to just Taysom Hill boosting some of that success. Juwan Johnson could absolutely be that guy as well. You look at the places where Juwan Johnson was most effective last year, and in addition to a couple of, short catches that he made and he was able to gather some additional yardage from, he was really impactful down the seam. And that's something that this New Orleans Saints offense, with Pete Carmichael still calling this offense, or now calling this offense, but still the architect of this offense, will continue to lean on when it comes to their tight ends in the passing game. Attacking the seam is still a very important staple and concept for this New Orleans Saints offense. And Juwan Johnson has shown a penchant, propensity, as well as an acuity to be able to get that done, right? So Juwan Johnson already fits really well within what the New Orleans Saints offense is looking to do. You think about an opportunity in 2021 or 2022 rather, to be able to march out a formation in let's say a single back formation with a 2x2 scenario here, but you're looking at 11 personnel to where you're looking then at one tight end and one running back. You've got Alvin Kamara in the backfield. You've got Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry to one side. You've got Juwan Johnson and Chris Olave to the other side. That's a very dynamic threat in the passing game, but also sets up a passing tendency that would also allow you to still run the ball, because you could easily run to Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry's side as they're really good run blockers, and you can swing a guard out to the outside as well. Get a pulling guard like Cesar Ruiz, or a pulling tackle like Ryan Ramczyk, or even get Eric McCoy out in front, right? Run a screen over to that side if you want to. Then you end up with a big 60 plus yard touchdown against the Green Bay Packers again. Like, it just creates so many different opportunities and really thins out the box for the opposing defense, because how does the opposing defense treat Juwan Johnson? When they see Juwan Johnson and they go to match personnel and they see Juwan Johnson in the huddle, do they send out an extra linebacker that maybe has some tight end coverage ability, or do they send out a defensive back that's going to end up instead being an undersized player matching up and lining up across from Juwan Johnson? So what does that give you in terms of your ability to be able to attack the seam, to attack opposing defenses, and attack the middle of the field with one of your biggest threats in terms of body and build? Juwan Johnson creates mismatches. Pete Carmichael, Dennis Allen, they're going to want to create mismatches. They love multiplicity, not only on the defensive side for Dennis Allen, but that offensive side as well. Look at the players that are on this roster still. Alvin Kamara, extremely multiple, extremely versatile. Michael Thomas, multiple, versatile, can play inside, can play outside, can do whatever it is that you need from him. Jarvis Landry, same story. Chris Olave can play inside, can play outside. You look at the tight ends like Taysom Hill and Juwan Johnson, who are modular. You can move them around quite a bit. That's what this New Orleans Saints offense is going to be all about, and Juwan Johnson fits that to a T. So I'm starting my campaign, and I hope that you, as the Locked On Who Dats, I think is what we're going with here for the group, as well as, of course, always the family, are going to continue to kind of make this mark as well, that Juwan Johnson deserves more targets in 2022. And by all intents and purposes, in terms of what we've seen from him so far, he should absolutely make good on it, and that should lead to a breakout year this season for Juwan Johnson. Coming up next, switch over to the defense. We know that Pete Werner is the guy that everybody is having the expectations around, and their expectations building. But I'm going to give you one specific reason why he should be able to meet the moment. And it's going to be something around what Dennis Allen wants to do with him, and why he does end up being a better option than Kwon Alexander with this in mind. We got that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Before we get to that, I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. Right now, they've got betting lines for 3 of the New Orleans Saints' first 4 games of the season. Favored on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Underdogs at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, week 2, plus 3.5. And then you've got 2-point favorites on the road in London up against the Minnesota Vikings. So if you want to get in on any of those, like you're expecting the Saints to upset and get a win up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week 2. They've done it 4 times already in the regular season. They should be able to do it again. Then maybe BetOnline should be your next visit after this show. So make sure you go and check them out on your laptop, on your mobile device, wherever it is that you're browsing. And you can also get in on MLB odds. You've also got NHL odds. You've got NBA odds that you can get ahead of as well. And even things like esports and live betting as well. So go and check them out today. It's BetOnline, your official online betting partners here at the Locked On Podcast Network. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always making us your first listen of the day every day. We're still here Monday through Friday, even though we're here in the thick of the offseason. Training camp right around the corner. So we're highlighting some breakout stars going into 2022 and who are going to be the guys that are going to have these big steps up in their career. And the one that is going to stand out the most to most people is going to be Pete Werner, because Pete Werner is going to have a much larger role than what we've seen him in so far. And it's going to be a role that's very likely going to mean a fan favorite not returning to the roster, because looking at what it is that Dennis Allen is wanting to do on the defensive side, it makes sense that Pete Werner is simply a better fit than Kwon Alexander is. Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying that Pete Werner is a better player than Kwon Alexander. I'm not saying that Kwon Alexander shouldn't be somebody that the Saints go out and sign. Yes, bring Kwon Alexander back. But with what it is that this New Orleans Saints defense is going to try to thrive on in 2022, disguise, Pete Werner is a perfect fit for this team. You look at what it is that Kwon Alexander brought to this team: electricity, energy, sideline to sideline speed, great coverage ability, but he was a little bit of a liability for you every now and then when it came to the run game, and he wasn't the most efficient blitzer, which is actually something we are used to seeing him be more efficient at throughout the course of his career. Pete Werner, not really excellent at any one thing. He's not a big playmaker or anything like that. So far, Caden Ellis has been the playmaker of the New Orleans Saints defense throughout OTAs and minicamps. So that means that we should see him get out there for some snaps if we can continue to keep that up for sure. But when it comes to Pete Werner, the thing that makes him special is his versatility, which plays into the favor of Dennis Allen, who wants to win with disguise. Remember, Marcus May, Tyrann Mathieu, the reason why they paired those two guys together has a lot to do with their multiplicity, their versatility, their ability to be able to each play deep, their ability to be able to each play in the box, their ability to each be able to cover in the slot. Those are things you're going to see them do down in and down out. And you're going to see the responsibilities shift, change, move, all of that. Not only snap to snap, but pre-snap to post-snap. So even within plays, you'll watch their responsibilities change and mold depending upon what it is that the opposing offense is doing. That's not going to be limited to the safeties. Versatility is not limited to the Saints defensive line where Cam Jordan plays inside, outside. Marcus Davenport plays inside, outside. These guys play all along these different techniques and things like that. It's not going to be that simple. When it comes to the second level, the Saints, Dennis Allen, they're going to want to be versatile and flexible and multiple there as well. So a guy like Pete Werner, who is good in the run game, who is good as a pass rusher, who is good in as a coverage guy in all three sort of phases or different phases of defense, that's going to play into the hand, and his cards are going to play into the hand of Dennis Allen, which means he's going to see more snaps regardless of who's on the roster. And that's good news for Pete Werner. Now, the next question is, can he rise to that moment? And his ability to be able to impact the game in multiple different elements, multiple different phases on the defensive side is what's going to allow him to live up to that expectation, meet those expectations, and hopefully even exceed them. He has to be able to be a player that is going to be able to put himself in position to impact the game from multiple places. So on one down, you might see him lining up and, guarding, I don't know, a tight end for that's, I want to say Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts is going to line up so much on the outside, so much in the slot that's probably not the greatest comparison. But one down, he's going to line up to guard a tight end and be in coverage. Another down, he's going to be rushing the passer. The next down, he might be, getting ready for the run game and looking at run fits and trying to play downhill or maybe scraping up and down the offensive line. He's going to be asked to do a ton, and very likely will also be a little bit more modular with Demario Davis, allowing Demario Davis to play a little bit more of a Mike linebacker who's calling the shots. And while Pete Werner sometimes takes the will linebacker responsibilities of coverage. So those types of that ability to be able to switch responsibilities between the two. Demario Davis is probably going to be the only one with the communication piece in the headset, of course, or in the helmet, of course. But in terms of the responsibilities on the field, once that communication device gets shut off, what are opposing offenses going to be ready for? What are they going to prepare for versus what it is that the New Orleans Saints are going to put out on the field? That's what's so special about Pete Werner, and that's why he's such a great fit for the New Orleans Saints and will get an opportunity to have a breakout year. What will a breakout year look like for Pete Werner? Glad you asked. That's going to be something that's going to put him kind of on the map, right? If he's able to finish up a season with 90 plus tackles, 80 plus tackles, that's a good spot to be. Demario Davis has finished with 100 plus tackles over the course of the past 4 seasons. Basically, since he's been a Saint, he's finished with 100 plus tackles. The Saints haven't had a pair of players with 100 plus tackles on the same defense since it was like Kenny Vaccaro and another linebacker that did it together back in like 2012 or something like that. It has been a very long time, right? So can Pete Werner rise to the occasion, meet the moment, and produce at that level? He doesn't have to be a cross-the-century mark tackler in order to have a good breakout season. But if he's able to do that, he's going to give New Orleans, with Demario Davis effectively being a lock for 100-plus tackles, that's going to give New Orleans something that they haven't had in terms of a dynamic tackler at the same time, for a long, long time. So if he's able to put together 80-plus sacks, if he's able to get in there with 10-plus tackles for a loss, if he's able to get even just a sack or two, I would consider that a breakout season for Pete Werner. I think the quality of those 80-plus tackles is big. Cynthia Freeland kind of talked about that, right? Making a tackle behind the line of scrimmage in the run game is very different than chasing somebody down 20 yards downfield. They both count as tackles, but the quality of those tackles is not the same. So the run stop capability has to be there for Pete Werner. The ability to create defensive stops, even in the passing game, right? If there's a short pass to the outside, is he able to close the way that Demario Davis closes on the defensive side? Is he going to be able to show that in his ability to be able to play in the flats and make those plays across on the other side of the field? If he can do that, that's a breakout season for Pete Werner. And that's him not only rising to, but also meeting the expectations and the moment, because he's going to be asked to do a lot in 2022. And he won't be the only one. We talked about versatility. We talked about being multiple. Is there anyone on this New Orleans Saints defense as versatile, as multiple of a defender as CJ Gardner-Johnson, I would dare say he's the most impactful player on defense because of what he can do all over the field. And because of that, he's set up to have a nice breakout season too, and it might come just in time. We'll break that down as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. Being multiple, meeting the moment, exceeding expectations, all of those are things you want to be able to do in multiple different elements. And our friends over at rockauto.com have mastered that when it comes to auto parts and any help that you need with your vehicle, whether you're looking for parts, pieces, or accessories. If you're somebody that's looking to maintain your daily driver, you're somebody that just likes to do your own oil changes, or you're somebody that's rebuilding a classic, it's all there for you at rockauto.com. Every make, every model, every year, and multiple selections, whatever part, piece, or accessory that you're looking for that are going to be much, much cheaper than the chain store around the corner, the name brand stuff that you have to wait 20 minutes for somebody to go and see if they have in stock. They don't. Let me not waste your time. And they're going to upcharge you at places like that because you're a do-it-yourselfer as opposed to being a wholesaler at rockauto.com. Not only do you have the multiple nature of everything that you're looking for, but you get that kind of salary cap management that you see from the New Orleans Saints as well, because you're all paying the same price, whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or you're a wholesaler. Doesn't make a difference. You're paying the same price all across the board. So go and check them out today. Don't forget to let them know that Locked On sent you. Visit rockauto.com. It's amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints with our final breakout candidate of the 2022 season, at least for this episode. I think that there are enough breakout candidates all across this team. Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, even guys like Chris Olave who could have an immediate breakout season, right? Cesar Ruiz, you'd love to see a breakout season from him as a steady and consistent interior offensive lineman. But I think one guy in particular is the one that will end up having the biggest impact with a breakout season, and that's CJ Gardner-Johnson. And this can come right on time for CJ because CD's been looking for a contract extension over the course of this offseason. He's one of three players that was rumored, or not really rumored, but that was reported as waiting for a new contract. Demario Davis was one. He's got his new contract. He's extended now. He's a New Orleans Saint through 2024. That's great news for New Orleans. Deontay Hardy's another one. He's on a restricted free agent tender right now. I imagine that's going to run deep, that conversation. That's going to go for a while. But CJ Gardner-Johnson is one that absolutely deserves a contract extension. And if you want to know why, just flip on any game from the 2021 season, look for 22 and watch. This guy does everything on defense. Not only is he one of, if not the best slot cornerback in the NFL, he can blitz. He can play in run coverage. He can cover your slot receiver. He can also cover your tight end coming out of the back. He can take on your pass blocking left tackle, right tackle if you need him to. I mean, the guy put an arm bar on a right tackle during the 2021 season, put that offensive lineman on his tush on his way to the quarterback. That type of versatility, that type of tenacity, that type of just, there is nothing I can't do when I step on the football field kind of mentality that CJ Gardner-Johnson does, begs for a huge 2022. Now that he's kind of learned the system, he has settled in, his role. The big safety changeup was going to be a bit of a question mark. How is that going to impact CJ? Now, that Marcus May is in the building. He might miss some games with his suspension. Let's not forget that. But you've got guys like PJ Williams, Justin Evans, and Bryce Thompson who are going to kind of battle for who's going to be the person that's going to be out on the field when Marcus May isn't. You brought in Tyrann Mathieu. Now CJ doesn't have to move. He doesn't have to go and do anything else. He doesn't have to go and cover deep and play far away from the line of scrimmage. He gets to maintain in the mix on the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, or near the line of scrimmage, wreaking havoc across the middle of the field or in the backfield. And that is something that really, really sets him up now that he has another year of experience, another offseason of preparation, and he has those two safeties that are back there. That means that he doesn't have to change his responsibilities and he continues to play his role. There were a lot of folks who talked about, hey, whoa. Saints don't have to sign Tyrann Mathieu. They've got CJ Gardner-Johnson. No, you want both. You want both on this defense because you're going to be able to line them up over on the outside and have both guys blitz if you want to. They're both tenacious. They're both good pass rushers. They're both are really, really good in the pursuit game, against the run game, against the quarterback even. He ends up becoming an integral part of how you try to manage Jalen Hurts next season, a guy that has gashed this New Orleans Saints defense over the course of the past 2 seasons in terms of his rushing ability and his escape ability. CJ Gardner-Johnson becomes your kind of, I don't want to call him a secret weapon because he ain't no kind of secret to nobody, but he is somebody that ends up bringing you exactly what you need on this defense that is predicated on disguise, that's predicated on versatility, and it's predicated on its ability to show you one thing and do another, which I know kind of factors into disguise. But when you think about pre-snap versus post-snap movement, where is CJ pre-snap is something that every quarterback is going to want to know. And this all comes, like I mentioned, right on time for CJ Gardner-Johnson, who will hopefully get his contract extension before his big breakout season. But this does give him a little bit of leverage in that conversation, and his team a little bit of leverage in this conversation. You know, CJ is ready to come in and have a huge impact at the role that he knows extremely well and that Dennis Allen effectively created for him. Now Dennis Allen is the head coach, so you know Allen has big plans for Gardner-Johnson. And if I'm CJ's representation, I'm reminding the New Orleans Saints of that in the midst of these contract negotiations, that, hey, you built a role for this kid. You haven't done that for anybody else. Not the same way that you did it for CJ Gardner-Johnson. You constructed a spot for him, and he has demanded his playing time with his play when he is on the field. And there is nothing that's been able to keep him off the field. Nothing will keep him off the field. And he's in line just in time for a fantastic 2022. And make no mistake about it, CJ Gardner-Johnson has the ability to win you games as a defender. Keeping quarterbacks uncomfortable, keeping quarterbacks off the mark, moving quarterbacks off their center, what he does as a blitzer, his ability to cover tight ends, his ability to cover in the slot, and his ability to make plays in the run game, on top of all the things we haven't quite seen him do yet that we know that he can do. Like, let's say they do need him to play some deep coverage. He has been able to show a propensity to do that. Go back and watch that Tampa Bay game where he had the interception and he had the closing speed on, I believe it was Scotty Miller that was being targeted on that one, but his ability to close. Everything that he does is something that leads to wins. He registers takeaways. He makes big plays. He makes quarterbacks uncomfortable. He distracts. He does all of the things that you need over on a defense to win single-handedly. And he'll do it again in 2022. And he'll do it at a breakout pace. And hopefully the Saints can get the contract with him done before that happens. Otherwise, it's going to be a deep asking price, or a steep asking price for CJ Gardner-Johnson by next season, and rightfully so. So those are our breakout candidates to watch for right now. We'll probably extend that list here in the coming days, but those are your breakout candidates to get started with here in 2022. Coming up tomorrow, New Orleans Saints passing offense was, let's just say, not great in 2021. We know that they've addressed the personnel, but have they addressed all of the aspects of making sure that that passing game is ready to go in 2022? How many receivers will they keep, and how does Alvin Kamara factor into all of those equations? We're going to break that all down in tomorrow's episode, our midweek fundamentals episode of Locked On Saints. I appreciate you as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you go and check out Locked On NFL, myself and David Harrison, talking about the 6 teams across the NFL, or not these 6 teams, but at least 6 teams around the NFL that are in need of a huge training camp. So you can see all of that with David Harrison and I on YouTube, or listen wherever you get your podcast. I appreciate you as always, making me a part of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. If you see me, say hi. And for everything else you need in between these episodes here on Locked On Saints, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.